What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Fit Over 40. I'm your host, Coach Clarence, and this is another episode of Coach Clarence and Coach's Corner. I'm here with Adam Zuckerman. He's the founder of Buried in Work, which provides resources and services to simplify estate planning, organization, and end-of-life tasks and estate transition. He is a Eisenhower Fellow, an attorney, MBA. Adam brings a wealth of experience to his role, combining legal knowledge with entrepreneurial vision to drive. All right, Adam, why don't you tell everybody how you got to this point? People like to buy you versus what you really do.
Yeah, I did not expect to be in this position. Long story short, my father passed away from leukemia pretty quickly after he was finally relapsing. He had it for 6.5 years. He was over at my house doing some work and said he was tired. Went to the hospital, ran some tests, told him to go to Hopkins on a Thursday, and he passed away 12 days later. So
Oh, wow.
way too quick. I hopped in and helped my mom with her estate. Fortunately, I'm an attorney, have a financial background and whatnot from the MBA as well in business. And when I showed my mom's financial planner what I had put together to transition everything, she said it was the most comprehensive transition she'd ever seen. And I had to give it away to other people. And I'm, sandwich generation, mid 40s, grew up watching cartoons. On one hand, I had that devil on my shoulder going, she's lying to you. She just doesn't want you to move your mom's money because you got financial power of attorney. On the other hand, the angel's going, well, it's pretty organized. Maybe you should. So I showed some people what I put together. Every single person said, Adam, build a website, give away some tips, help some people. And I did. And in a week, we had over 10,000 visits to the website. And now we push 7 figures impressions every 28 days. And it's been a labor of love that fortunately we're able to help a lot of people with.
Why do you think people avoid estate planning and end of life planning? Do you think we know we all going to go away, but do you think
Yeah.
people just try to avoid it, dealing with it?
I think it's difficult to say. And there's the saying, you're unique just like everybody else. Yeah, everybody has their own reasons. Some people think that it's something they can put off towards later. Some people think, oh, I don't have a lot of assets, so I don't need to do something. Or my kids or my family members, they know what I really want. It's not my problem anymore. I'll be dead. Right. And the reality, though, is that no matter what reason you push off for or reasons that encourage you to do it, people don't realize that you have an estate plan if you take an action or don't. Because if you die without a will, it means that your state's just going to follow interstate procedures, which is effectively saying the state's going to decide who gets your stuff. And it's not what people think oftentimes. So normally when people think about estate planning, it's do you have a will? Do you have a trust? And a lot of people in the country don't.
Yeah.
Only, I won't go into stats, but a lot of people don't have it. But it's everything else that goes into the planning. So if you can't advocate for yourself, who's going to advocate for you? So if you're in the hospital after you get hit by a bus, theoretically, and you can't talk, what do you want to have happen to you? Who gets to make those decisions? If something happens even worse and you pass away, who needs to come to your funeral? Do you want a funeral? What happens to your body? Who gets to speak? It's the entire ecosystem that people need to start looking at. And that's really what Buried in Work is about, is helping walk people through those steps. If you want to do it yourself, we got you. If you want to have somebody help you out, we can help you with products and services or introduce you to somebody that can.
What's the difference between a will or a living trust? It's something that comes up. I've talked to people before and they say, oh, I got to trust my kids not to worry. What's
Yeah.
the
All
difference?
right. Great question. For those of you that want to go really in depth, we have a free guide on the website, Introduction to Wills and Trusts. But high level, a will sets out what you want to have happen to your things. And if you have minor kids, it can set guardianship designation. So in the event something happens to me, I want my kids to get this. A trust is much more complicated. It's effectively a legal agreement, a legal situation that pops up. And I'm trying to simplify it. But it says in similar fashion, I want this to happen to these assets. Now, there's lots of different trusts, dozens of different types that can get very complicated and they each have different purposes. But primarily, the reason why people consider a trust versus a will is that wills have to be publicly filed in the state that you live in the local jurisdiction. So, literally, you can go back and see famous people's wills. I want this specific item to go to this person, whereas trusts don't get filed, they're private. So they offer not only tax benefits in some instances, but rather they just simplify that transfer because it doesn't have to go through that probate process. And probate isn't bad, it's just a process that has to go through.
Yeah, I've talked to people and they really demonize probate, and they're like, you got to get a will, you got to get this because, and I understand courts aren't emotionally involved. They're just following the law.
Yeah.
Based on the law, this is what happens to this person, this is what happens to this person. When should someone start thinking about life after death?
All right. When you turn 18, you should have a basic will in place. It's that simple. Even
Wow.
if you don't
Okay.
have a lot of assets, that's okay because it is always easier to update and change your estate plan as you grow than in the last moment of your life to try and throw something together really quickly. So the way that we propose and the way that we encourage people is you create your will today for tomorrow, and then you update it to evolve with you over time. Because the Coach Clarence of today is very different than the Coach Clarence from 10 years ago and 20 years ago,
Exactly.
right?
There was not much to give. You want
Yeah,
those tennis shoes?
but it's not even the giving part. It's the what do you want to have happen to you? It's are
Right.
you having legacy messages? Are you considering the type of situation that you want to put your family into? And what I mean by that is on average it takes 570 hours to administer an estate in the United States after somebody passes away.
Wow.
570 hours. I don't know about you, but I don't have 570 hours just hanging around, right?
Right.
And if something were to happen to you and you don't actually have instructions and you haven't thought this process through of what to have happen, now your family members in times of grief or your loved ones have to figure all of that out and guess. And odds are they're going to make financial decisions that they could have been avoided. They're going to do something that might not have wanted, and it just gets more complicated. So the day that you turn 18, what we say is go out and create a basic will. You can do it yourself. You can use a service provider online. You can do it with an attorney, different people, different things. Everything's okay. Um, and then you update that as your situations change. And we say every year, annually, we got a free checklist for that online. Here's what you do to update. April 16th, after you pay your taxes, if you pay your taxes, look at your estate plan. And then every 5 years, you do a deep dive and you see what's really changed during the course.
So this is a fascinating field because we all have to experience this. So you've got an endless supply of people who need your services. What made you get into this versus all the things you could do with your background, your education?
Yeah, I did not expect to be in this spot. And it just happened organically. When my dad was over at my house, I just resigned from a job a few weeks earlier because I was traveling too much and just needed a little bit of a break. I was on 54 flights in 1 year, mostly international, which is a lot. And after I posted, like we made the website, it had some articles on it, some checklists, and I thought that would be it. And we posted to Facebook, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, and literally I had an inbox that was full. Hundreds of emails came in saying, "Thank you for doing this. Condolences on your father. Appreciate this. Consider this resource. Glad it helps." But also, now that you've shared this information, can you actually help me organize my info? And I realized, wait a minute, this is actually something that I enjoy. I'm helping a lot of people. There's clearly a need. I've learned since then that 10 to 12,000 people turn 65 every single day in the country, that women are outliving men by 5.8 years when they're married. And if you look at traditional family values, that means that there's a lot of women out there that are going to find themselves in a situation that's not because they're unable to pay bills, they just don't know where the bills get paid from. And we're creating content and products like our Clear Kits that organize all of your information. So if something were to happen, you know what bills need to be paid, you know who needs to be contacted, you know what resources are out there, you know everything about everything. It's been called the most comprehensive estate organization system in the country, which is pretty neat. Um, and then your family doesn't have to worry about it. And I'm glad that I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not just me. There's a lot of people involved now.
Gotcha. People will find your bio. Tell us what an Eisenhower Fellow is.
All right. So there was President Eisenhower. Most people know him by name. And effectively, a foundation was created to choose mid career executives for intra country exchange to help promote a better world. And I was very fortunate to be selected in 2018 to go to China for 30 days.
Wow.
Uh, the network of individuals are wonderful. We're talking like high level government officials to senior executives in countries. Everybody just wants to make the world a better place. And it is something that literally changed my life.
That's ins- that's impressive. Right now we're post the election. People are fearful, they're afraid. What advice would you give the average family that's struggling to get by in terms of your knowledge and what you bring to the table?
All right. If you're struggling to get by, it doesn't mean that you should do nothing. We actually have a free estate summary worksheet on the website. It is 3 pages long. You can get it in the template area of the shop, and it will outline: do you have a will? Do you have a trust? A list of your bank accounts? Who needs to be contacted? Just it's like the clear kit, but really, really, really straightforward and simple. Bare minimum, go to the website, download that, write it down, fill it out, and then tell 3 family members that you did it. And the reason why is that you can do as much estate planning as you want. You can create end of life, directions of this is what I want to have happen to my funeral. You can make your pet profile worksheet if you have pets of this is what I want to have happen to my pet. You can do legacy messaging, ethical wills. We can help with all of this. But if your family members can't find it, it's as if it doesn't exist. So start simple. Estate summary worksheet's what you're looking for, and then you start having the conversation with your family and just go back to it and evolve over time.
Um, One of the things that I've heard people get, I've gotten it actually myself, is these solicitations for death insurance. Is that something your company does? Should people look at doing that?
Yeah. We don't provide death insurance. Some people call it pre-need funeral insurance. Some people call it funeral insurance. Effectively, what's that saying is that in the event somebody passes away, your funeral is already planned out and paid for. Super, super helpful. You pay today to get something later, and your family members don't have to worry about it. There's
Mhm.
also life insurance where if you pass away, then somebody in your family or your designated beneficiaries will get a cash payout. We connect people with vendors. If you want to learn about that, we've got a menu on the top of the website that says help I need. And then there's a section for life insurance, for funeral insurance. And just like I said earlier, you're unique just like everybody else. If you want to learn about it, come learn about it for free. Maybe it makes sense for you. Maybe it doesn't. That's up to you.
Mhm. So you recommend people should kind of, even at the early stages, what an 18-year-old, like you mentioned, start thinking about life insurance?
If you want to start looking at it when you're 18, if you got a little bit extra cash, it's going to be very, very lucrative for you long term because compounding value of money. I don't think that an 18-year-old needs to get prepaid funeral insurance. Probably wait till you're 30 and 40 to play those odds. Maybe a little bit later after that. But it also depends on where you are in your life with respect to your family. So
Mhm.
somebody that is married that has a spouse, male, female, that's a very different equation if they have kids or than if they're single.
Mhm.
And what we can help you do is understand here are the options that you can consider and be informed to then make those questions or make those decisions. And an example, I, there's some very expensive caskets out there. There are
Yeah.
very expensive cremation options out there, but there's also more affordable ways. And you may say, oh, I really just want a really basic box. And your family members might go, no, Coach Clarence, he likes style. We're going to get him that $40,000 casket, right? Because that's what he wants,
That's coming out of their life insurance proceeds.
right? But it's up to you to then preempt that and say, this is just what I want. I've already made all the decisions. And it's a question of timing for you. And there's so many different things that go into this: assisted living, aging in place, nursing homes, contact information, what to do if you get divorced, what to do if you get married, have a kid, blended families. And because of that, it is really, really overwhelming for a lot of people. And that's what Buried in Work is trying to do through all of our resources is just simplify things so people wherever they are in their life, they can come in, learn a little bit in a fun, engaging way. Like we even have card games, which are pretty neat, to help you connect with your families and figure things out. So in the event something were to happen, you're not stressing, you're not figuring things out for the first time, or your family members aren't figuring out for the first time.
So you kind of alluded to this earlier. Let's say I'm 20 years old. I don't have a family yet. 10 years down the road, I get married. I do have a term life policy because someone told me to get life insurance. Do you offer guidance and consulting on how to transition into maybe future plans or stuff like that?
Yep. We don't offer the specific guidance on a one-to-one basis. We have high-level consulting that we can say, hey, here's who you should talk to. We help people with organization, but that's something that you tend to have to navigate on your own if you want to flip that into something else. But what I can say is that the checklist that we offer help people out in a significant fashion. So for an example, there was one individual in Maryland. Her husband was in the hospital. He wasn't paying bills because he was, not paying bills, difficult times. And our process is make sure you understand what the key bills are that need to be paid. Makes sense. Like Netflix, not important to pay. If it gets canceled, who cares? You don't get to see the TV show. But some things like your mortgage, really important. Credit card bills, pretty important. Life insurance policy, really important. And when she started going through the worksheet, they realized that the life insurance premium hadn't been paid for a little bit of time and that it was going to term out and lapse, like final term out in 2 days.
Mhm.
So she called up. She was able to get it extended, the payment, overnighted a check. The husband passed away shortly after that. And she then got a $403,000 payout that she would have lost on. It is really important for you to understand all of the family dynamics and what is going to impact different people in your family based on what you have. And you may know what's going on, but if your family doesn't have that capacity and that information and the know-how of what to do, it's not bad that they're dropping the ball. They just didn't even know that they were in the game,
Mhm.
right? To use the basketball analogy. And a lot of people ask, why do I need to do this? And here's the analogy. If I invite you over for dinner, right, and you come to my house
Yes, sir.
and we're gonna make dinner, like what's your favorite recipe? What's your favorite thing to eat?
I like Italian food, believe it or not, traditional American food. So I'm
All
open.
right.
I'm open. I'm easy
All
to
right.
please.
We are making the best lasagna you have ever had in your life,
Oh,
right? Six
come on.
layers, delicious, like it's gonna be awesome, right? And you come over to my house. We got some beers that are on the counter. We got all the ingredients. We got meat. We got tomato sauce. We got tomatoes, garlic, onion sautéed. We're gonna even make like a bechamel sauce if we want to get really fancy for it, right? Recipes there. Oven's preheated. It's gonna be nice. It's gonna be fun, relaxing. We're gonna knock that out pretty good and have a great meal, right? But if you come over to my house, the door's locked. I'm not there. You know that other people are coming over in 3 hours. We need to have that lasagna done. And then you finally break into the house and you don't realize that the pasta is downstairs in a safe and you don't have the combination to it. You're going to have, sorry about the dogs, you're going to have a lot of difficulty making that recipe on yourself. Right. And that's what's going on. We're giving people the recipe to get their estates organized so they don't have the problem of walking into a house where they can do it. They're going to be able to figure it out, but it's just going to take them a lot longer to do it.
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. Um, when people think of estate planning, I think we live in this fantasy world as we want to think about anybody leaving us or going away. How would you kind of, if you will, coach someone that obviously this is something we all going to have to deal with? How would you get them to kind of approach dealing with this subject?
It's hard. We actually have a section on the website called "Start the Conversation with My Parents." There's a free quiz there because a lot of people come to us with this specific question. My mom and dad don't want to talk to me. What do I do? I can't even start the conversation with them. Free quiz takes you 3 minutes. You can fill it out for your estate or for somebody else's estate, like your parents, and it'll give you a score from 0 to 10. 0, you got a little bit of work to do. 10, you're in really good shape. You probably don't need to do much, but here's some options if you really want to go overboard. And there's that spectrum in between. And then afterwards, there's cut and paste text messages. Mom, dad, I took a quiz. I got a score. I'd love to talk to you about it next time I see you. And then from there, you start going through the roadmap that we have. There's a free roadmap. Starts with the estate summary worksheet and goes through all the different steps that you can consider. What a lot of people don't realize though is that people are genuinely open to discussing estate plans, end of life tasks, things of that nature. But you have to come at it from a collaborative approach. I care about you and not a frame of mom, dad, I want to go through your stuff so I can figure out what I get when you die. Right?
Yeah.
And if you come from that point of education of I did something because I am concerned, this is the result that I got. I'd like to talk to you about it, ask for help. it's generally much better received than if you just sit down and go, I want to talk about you dying.
All right, so let's talk about something that's probably more common than not. Nothing's in place. The event has already happened. People are gone. How would you approach that, dealing obviously with the emotional state of mind at the time? What would you say would be the first steps?
First step, buriedinwork.com. Find the header on top I need, and there is a checklist that is for end of life tasks. There are 56 things in that checklist right now, many of which you would not expect that you need to do, and start working your way through the checklist. Not everything has to happen tomorrow or the same day, but it is very important that you understand all of the different things. If you're a federal employee, we've got a guide for federal employees of here are the extra things that might impact you, retirement plans, things of that nature. What you can't do is just sit and do nothing. And fortunately, the system is designed that it walks people through, not our system, but the system at large in America, state specific. But then you start leveraging those resources, leveraging those checklists that link back to the articles and the guides and the other things that we have on the site and make your life and your family's life just a little bit easier.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. Um, I've been fortunate being just doing what I do to have gotten with all my brothers and sisters, all who are over 40 and had been able to have these conversations. Say you need to get a will, you need to get a trust, you need to start thinking about life insurance. Does your platform offer a guidance for someone who has zero knowledge, or do you offer resources to point them in the right direction? Or
Yeah.
is it strictly, hey, come talk to us and we'll tell you what to do?
No, that's what that roadmap is. So there's a free estate planning roadmap that starts very high level, basic. If you want to educate yourself, and then work your way through it. We've got specific hubs that, for example, let's talk about the will hub. I need a will.
Yeah.
It says there's 3 ways that you can get a will, and then there's a quiz that you can take. It'll even tell you this is what we think is best for you. You can do it on your own. If you want to do it on your own, you got to make sure that you are adhering to your state specific laws because the number of witnesses might change, the age might change. If you need a notary, like requirements are similar, but they change on jurisdiction. So we'll educate you to say, if you want to do it yourself, here's what you need to know. If you want to do it with an online service provider, here's 3 companies that we recommend that we've got relationships with. And then if you want to talk with somebody that is an actual attorney, there's 2 different ways. You can go through a prepaid legal plan, or you can go through the attorney directory that we have and find somebody close to you. And we walk people through that step. And as people come to us and say, we need more resources or I have a question, we go out and we create those resources. So example is somebody called us up. It's actually an email. And they said, my mom fell. She hit her head. She's in the hospital. I'm in the waiting room. And this is a few days after she was still in the hospital. And the people in the waiting room also next to me, I overheard, are complaining that they keep getting deliveries of toilet paper from Amazon and they can't turn them off. Like, what? Yeah, the person, it turns out that they were visiting was in the hospital and not responsive. They couldn't get into their Amazon account, and they had a recurring delivery of 4 rolls of toilet paper every 2 weeks. They do. So we went out, we contacted 100 of the largest companies in the country, and we created a database that says this is who you contact, or these are the steps that you take to close an account with this company. And it's things like that. If you have problems and there isn't something on the website that you see that you think could help you out, let us know. We created podcast directories. We got a directory of 20 different service provider types. We've got a directory of every single unclaimed property resource in the country that you can search for free. We helped one person find like $35,000 recently. Um, we want to make people's lives a little bit easier. So if we can help you, shoot us a note and we'll see what we can do.
So people are passionate about what they do when they come on podcasts. Part of your business, unfortunately, is that someone leaves us.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you passionate about that? And have you ever been like, maybe I should do something that's more uplifting versus we're burying somebody?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I have I'm fortunate to have been in a position where I'm helping people in times of stress and times of grief, making their lives a little bit easier. I think that we need to demystify and start talking about end of life in a way that, is more accessible to people. That's why we have our card games. One more story. Tell me one more story about XYZ. I was in the hospital with my dad. There are a few people in the room. And we realized things weren't going to work out. And he had a few more days. He was still 100% with it. His body was just shutting down. And we started asking him, tell me one more story about when you were a kid. Tell me one more story about grandpa. And just going down the list. And we ended up turning that into a card game called One More Story
Mhm.
that has 126 cards, 6 different categories to help people connect with their family members. And we've since contacted and we're working with hospice companies and nursing homes, and activity directors, and people that are in the space have come back to us and said this is so helpful because so many people when they sit in that room, whether it's the hospital or hospice or something else, they look at their cell phones and they don't connect. And then when that person passes away, they realize that person's gone and I can't ask them anything else anymore. So in my view, we're not working in an industry that's sad for sad's sake. We're working to help people connect with their family members, honor their legacy, honor their wishes, reduce their stress, and help them out in a difficult time. And if we've got products and content that can do that, I think I'm in the right place right now.
All right, so we know a little bit about what you do professionally. Talk about your personal life. Do you have a family? Do you have children? What
I
do they think
have,
about what dad does?
yeah. So I am a dink wadak, as I think they say. So dual income, no kid with a dog and cat.
So you got a dog, you got a dog. Hey, they're gonna love you better than kids. Let me tell you, I got
Yeah.
kids. The dog and the cat will love you no matter what.
Yep. Yep. I've got 6 nieces and nephews between me and my wife. Hopefully that number's correct. I'm pretty sure it is. Uh, so I like playing the uncle when I can. Uh, I like to work out when I can. Used to do triathlons. I love weird projects. I'm a beekeeper. I've got 3 hives.
Really? That's interesting.
Oh. Yeah, just
That's
kind of
different.
nutty stuff. Make some stuff in the basement, woodworking. I'm like
Okay.
that suburban DC guy that has a lot of interest, gets bored, and then goes on to something else.
All right. Give me your I know we're almost at the end of this thing called 2024. What's your personal and business goals for the end of the year? And where do you see what you do in the future and how you play a role in it?
All right. Personal business goals is just helping as many people as possible. We started this off thinking that we were going to help individuals, and what we're finding is that a lot of companies are coming to us too, which is kind of neat. So HR groups, employment divisions and companies. We're working with, like I said, hospice companies. I would love to see our stuff in more hospitals. Our games are now being sold in Sibley Hospital, which is part of the John Hopkins network. Keeps
Mhm.
selling out in their gift store, which is neat. So improving that. Um, yeah, it's just a question of where to spend time. We want to make an impact. So,
Yeah. Um, are you planning on writing a book about something like this? Maybe a step-by-step guide?
oh my goodness, I love that. It's like you have an insight into my head.
Well,
Uh,
it's a real question because people don't know where to start. And you know what? You'd be surprised, Adam. People are afraid to pick up the phone and have this conversation.
yeah,
Because
no,
we live in this
absolutely.
world of it won't be me. I don't have to worry about that right now. My parents are young. We're all good. You know that. You've been in this
Yeah.
business long enough. So people don't think about death, and it could happen at any minute. You can't plan for it.
All right, this is something that I have been working on. It's not baked. I don't know if I'm going to actually do it. We've got our Clear Kit, which we talked about earlier. It's the organization. So, Comprehensive Legacy and Estate Administration Repository Kit. It's the most comprehensive, get all your information in one place kit so your family members have everything.
Mhm.
The last tab in this set of binders is before I forget. It's like, hey, we've asked you a ton of questions, but maybe there's something that's really unique to you before I forget, right? Write it down so your
Love it.
family
Yeah.
members know. The name of the book that we have, in a conceptual format right now, there's an outline, is Before I Forget, the funny, slightly morbid guide to getting your estate in order. And it's going to go through, if we do it, a whole host of different topics of organization, of talking with your parents, all the things that we've talked about today, but also give a little bit of a lighter side of what the industry is, and the industry being very wide. Our podcast, for example, I don't want to have just people on as like, this is the financial podcast where you need to talk about a 529 plan for your kids. It gets boring. So we're having those really practical tips, but we're also interviewing people that have great, crazy jobs. The first person on our podcast is, his name is Colin, I believe. He's from Australia and calls himself the Coffin Confessor. So he literally gets paid to go to someone's funeral to stand up and say, I have a message from the deceased and I'm going to read it out loud to everybody here.
Oh boy, that could be
Right?
scary.
It's crazy. So he goes around the world and he reads notes. Sometimes they're really nice, heartfelt. I'm glad you're here. Other times is you shouldn't be here because I haven't talked to you in 30 years and I know that you're here just here for my inheritance. So it's both sides of that. And the goal of the book is to educate people, help them with a checklist, direct them to resources, but also make it a little bit more personal about the people that are in the industry and have wacky jobs that you might not even know exist, like the eco burial planner or the space burial coordinator or bereavement chef. That's something that actually exists, or a sin eater in historical times, a recomposition specialist. Like there's so many different things and aspects that people just don't know about that if we do the book, maybe you can do the forward for us or something. I think would be really interesting for a lot of people.
I love it, man. When I saw your name come up and I read your description, I was really excited. And I'm not just saying this because you're on here, because just to give you an example, this year I saw 10 people that I knew personally pass away who had no plans, who had no direction, and to see the chaos that ensued after they passed, to the family members fighting, to property being snatched away. This is such an important topic. How can people find you and find out more about what you do so they can plan ahead? Because I'm a big stickler on this and I'm really going to push this episode because people think by avoiding talking about death that it's not going to happen. And maybe I'm using a strong word. You probably use something different in your practice, but we all are going to face this demon, this thing called death. It's just part of life. You're not going to, if you're born, guess what? You're going to pass. That's just life. But, give us some one good thing and then tell everybody how to find you to deal with this tough subject that people don't want to talk about.
The one good thing is advice or statement, a phrase that a very close friend told me after my dad passed away. And I literally think about this every single day.
Mhm.
And he knew I was very, very close with my dad. And Adam, it's not going to get better, but it will get easier.
Mhm.
And it is so true. It will always hurt. It will always stink. It will always be a situation where I'm missing my dad and wish that I had another 10 minutes to have another question. Right. But it gets easier and it's not a linear path. There's waves of it. Driving around is something. Oh, I thought about something and I get emotional. Right. And
Mhm.
that's okay. So take that to heart, everybody. It's not going to get better. It will get easier. You'll get through it. And hopefully, there's some resources that we offer that other people can offer, whether it's your community, your friends, your church, wherever you live, find out, reach out, get the help that you need. In terms of getting in touch with us, it's really easy. Go to the website, buriedinwork.com. That's BURIEDINWORK.com.
Thank you, Adam, for, not just for being on today, but just for what you do, because it's a subject that a lot of people don't want to deal with. Now, my family's background's from the South, and there's a guy on the corner who'll sell you a tombstone that'll give you a shot of whiskey and bury your family for probably $200, but that's the experience. So I really think it's important what you do, and I hope you do pursue that book. It may be more than that because this is what people need. They need to talk about afterlife, and I think we go through life thinking, I'll just bury my head in the sand and it won't happen to me. And then next thing you know, you got to deal with it. And listen, I'm 54. My day is coming and I've seen lots of people. So I'm prepared. I've done the work. And I'll look into your website and see what else I need to do. But um, it's going to happen. So it's good what you do. All right. Final thoughts and then we'll get you out of here.
That's it. Listen to the website, send it to friends, send it to your family. If you need help, let me know. Most comprehensive way to organize your estate information is the Clear Kit. We've got free resources too. Go to Coach Clarence's site, listen to more of his episodes. It's an awesome podcast. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank you for your time. This episode will be out in 2 days, Thursday. And again, Adam, thank you for your time. I appreciate what you do.
Glad to
And
be
I'll
here.
be the first one to get the book because I'm going to put that in the universe that you need to do it.
All
All
right.
right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.